this video, and also I don't have a microphone on, so I'm going to try my best to put captions, but I'm going to explain what's happened. I didn't really want to condense it down into a short because I've possibly had the roughest year or 13 months of my life, and I also can't breathe very well, so if you see me struggling, that's why. Because I have incisions in my belly. Every time I inhale, I can feel all my organs moving. Anyways, I'll get to that. I also can't laugh, so I can't be comedic, and it's killing me. I'm going to start back in January and go through everything that brought me to this stage, because I've talked about it in public before. I've been on radio talking about it, but I realize I've never addressed it to you guys, and I kind of owe it to you for this being my career and being able to take all this time off to take care of myself. So I'm going to start in January last year, 2025, when I was diagnosed with hemochromatosis, and this really set me up for a pretty crappy year. Sorry, pardon my language. Well, hemochromatosis, if you don't know, is a genetic condition where you're predisposed to storing iron in all of your organs, and you inherit it from your parents, like I did. And basically what it did was damage my organs a little bit. And the only treatment for hemochromatosis are what's called venesections, where you pretty much go through the same process as blood donations, but a lot more frequently. Mine were weekly when I started out, and then they actually realized they were making me pass out too often because they were taking so much blood from me, so they put them every 2 weeks, and I had 13 of those sessions until my iron came down. It was at 375 when we started, my serum ferritin, and then it got down to about 56, and they said it's actually too dangerous to keep going. We're gonna stop now and let it build up again for a couple of years. I actually have another venesection in April, so I've got a while, thank goodness. After all of that happened, I was still feeling pretty cruddy every day, and I started to realize maybe it wasn't just the venesections. So I just went back to my gastroenterologist, my GP, and I said, I feel terrible. And she's like, oh, it's probably IBS. I thought it was. I saw a gastroenterologist, and I said, I still feel pretty terrible. Go back to your GP. So I did. I'll let my brother pass. I love my brother. He's great. He's in a lot of my videos. So I went back to my GP, and I said I still feel absolutely terrible. And she basically said, okay, you know, hemochromatosis, it could damage any one of your organs, but we're going to look at your heart first, because I was having these weird spikes of my heart rate and my adrenaline. So I went and I did a full cardiac assessment. This was September time, so quite recently. And I had a cardiac ultrasound, which was, I feel so bad for whoever was doing it, because they had to put like the ultrasound stick here, and I gagged on them. I feel so bad to this day because I was fasting. I had no saliva in my mouth. Anyways, as soon as I went in to see the nurse to take my bloods, she like made me lay down and then made me sit up and measured my heart rate, and it went from 70 to 176 within a couple seconds. And basically she said, you have a condition called POTS, and I didn't really know what it properly was, and it doesn't have the best reputation on the internet, because it's becoming increasingly more common, but it's still really disabling, and it's pretty horrendous to have. Anyways, once I was diagnosed with that through a tilt table test, they literally lay you down and strap you to a bed, and you go from like this position to this position, or well, the opposite way around, your head and your feet to 90 degrees, and they see what your heart increase was, and if it's over 30 beats per minute, you have POP. And this sucked. It was not a very nice test. I felt very clammy. Sorry if my arm is shaking, I can't hold you guys up. I felt very clammy. So they laid me back down for a few minutes until I recovered. And that was it. I went to see my cardiologist. I was put on medication and I thought, I'm finally going to feel better. I can get back to making the skits. My life is now going to be great. It was not. I really struggled with my final semester of college. I still have an internship to go, but this was like in central Dublin. I was traveling in. I had the most beautiful student accommodation that I couldn't even bear to stay in because I felt so horrible and I needed help. Um, but anyways, I got through my final semester of college barely, and with a lot of vertigo. I couldn't drive myself in. It was really quite horrible. But I got through it, and by kind of November time, I decided I need to go back to my GP and tell her there's something else wrong. And my whole life, since I was about 10 years old, I've had chronic pelvic pain. And I thought nothing of it. Like, yes, sure, I got an ultrasound. They told me it wasn't anything to do with endometriosis. You're probably just over exaggerating. Go on the birth control pill. And that's what I did. And I got through my leaving cert and all with the pill, but I still had this dull ache in my back constantly. It never really went away, and I put it down to either being on my feet for too long or sitting down for too long, which doesn't make any sense. So I went to my GP and I mentioned that maybe it's to do with the pelvic pain. Maybe that's why I feel so terrible all the time. Can I get something done? Can I get another ultrasound? And she said, no, I'll send you for an MRI scan of your gynae, So I got that done, and I had finished that. I was paid for parking, and then they rang me again and they said, you're gonna have to come back in to get more scans done. And that's when I knew they weren't sure about something that they had seen. They just didn't want to tell me. Anyways, after 2 MRIs, I went home, waited a week for the results, and I got them. It was not looking good. They said it looks to be stage 3 or 4 endometriosis, and that's what I thought it was. That's what they thought it was. My ovaries weren't doing too well, especially my right one, which, as you can see, was definitely damaged by something. But basically, I thought it was endometriosis, and so did every single doctor out there. I went to see a gynecologist, and I said, hey, and an endometriosis specialist, bearing in mind there's something up with my MRI results. What can I do? And basically they said, stay on birth control or get a laparoscopy. And that's where I am today. 2 days ago, I had my laparoscopy. It was really, really rough. I was terrified. And I'm at home now in a lot of pain. But I'm happy to be able to share this with you all. But my results came in. It actually wasn't endometriosis, which I cried when they said that because it's just the best news I could ever get. But there was a lot wrong anyways. My bladder and my ovary were tied together like this, with adhesions. Adhesions are pretty similar to endometriosis. Scar tissue, basically just tying everything together. So when I say I don't have endometriosis, doesn't mean there wasn't anything wrong. There was quite a lot wrong. And they've taken that out, and now I have to wait 8 weeks to talk about it with my gynae and speak about the results. But for now, I've got a decent amount of incisions in my chest, and I'm not able to make videos, and it's making my hands very shaky, and I apologize. But yeah, I'm just gonna take recovery one day at a time. I'm actually surprised I've been able to speak this long. And that's my update from hemochromatosis, POTS, and pelvic something something. Now you know why I am able to make videos and why I had to stop making videos for quite a long time. I'll be back soon.